NASA and private space firm Axiom Space are set to launch AX-4, the fourth commercial mission to the ISS. The mission is going to carry astronauts conducting microgravity experiments and technology demonstrations. Coordinating ISS operations between government and commercial crews does require some pretty careful scheduling to avoid logistical conflicts. The mission will include experiments on biomedical research, including tests on how microgravity affects human stem cells.
This is cool stuff. And just to put this into perspective, okay, for over 2 decades, I think since 1998-ish, NASA has helped to keep the ISS crewed. So it's these, ISS, International Space Station, has been crewed by government launches, of course, from various international, folks sending crews up there.
Yep.
But the first private mission to the ISS was only 4 years ago. And this is now the planning for the fourth private mission. So this is really an era where we're seeing the game change. NASA's goal is to achieve a strong economy in low Earth orbit where you can purchase services as one of many customers to meet science, to meet research objectives and microgravity. So the commercial strategy for low Earth orbit is going to provide with the government with a reliable and safe services at lower cost, enabling the agency to focus on things like the Artemis missions to the moon, preparation for Mars, all that other stuff, while continuing to use a low Earth orbit as training and providing ground for those deep space missions. So the collaboration that Greg talked about here between private and government sectors is absolutely paramount. It's absolutely the number one challenge of how do you make this work to meet the needs of government programs, the needs of private programs, and to make the private ones commercially successful so that, it makes sense to send folks up there. So there's a lot going on, and it's a whole new era of what's going to happen with space and space exploration and space research. And it's a big space.
It's an awful waste of space, as they say way back in a movie. I think the challenge, the problem is coordinating ISS operations between a government entity and a private entity. That's definitely my number one. For a start, NASA ISS resources are limited. Their crew time, their equipment, their docking ports. There's a very limited resource pool for NASA, which is why we now have private partnerships going on. So that in itself can create scheduling conflicts. And if you've got different mission priorities between NASA and Axiom, that's just going to bring additional complexity to the whole thing. So to solve the problem, I think this is the classic 3-tier solution. It's people, it's process, it's technology. So the people, you've got 2 different cultures. You've got a government NASA culture with a private culture, and they're different. I won't go into how, but I think we know. And then you've got processes which are entirely different, more red tape, a little less red tape, a little more agile. And then you've got technology, fully digitalized versus a lot of the time, very paper-based, mechanical orientated organizations. So I think you need a very strong advanced planning and scheduling layer in there that actually brings the 2 together, that takes into consideration a different culture as well.
See, I think you're close, but I think what you're missing is that if you've ever gone to Airbnb and rented an Airbnb, there's like the cost of it, but then there's that cleaning fee they come up and sneak on you, right? So what is the aspect of the maintenance basically after this happens? Once you got crews up there that are not government, do they leave it correctly? Do you got to send cleaners up? I mean, I'm kind of joking, but also serious, where you've got to make sure that the place.
Did you make your bed?
Yeah. Did you make your bed when you're done? And what does that also entail into this collaboration and scheduling because of the reuse, the way that a government mission might be wanting to use the ISS versus the way that a private researchers want to use it? You got to make sure the facility is able to switch between these needs to provide for these needs. So it even adds more layers to that collaboration and coordination that you're talking about.
Yep. So what's the solution?
I mean, you talked about it a little bit already, I think, with that coordination and the optimized scheduling, which is really, how do you, it's a planning and mixed with maintenance too, because I think some of these uses might put more wear and tear on certain aspects of the space station and what's up there. So you've got to figure that out along with the maintenance and everything put together. So I think there's going to be some chances for some things that are going to be more inefficient than they used to be, and other things that are going to be more efficient than they used to be. And figuring out how that works together is going to be an ongoing process with optimized scheduling and coordination.
Of course, Axiom as well. I think their whole, one of their business models is building their own space station as well, actually doing their own. So maybe this is their way of learning what's right, what's wrong, etc. So yeah,
I think we're close to actually seeing stuff happening in low Earth orbit that really is the launching for those next higher Earth orbits and space exploration. It is going to be a fascinating next few decades.
You bet. See you next one.